Olivia Mason looked out the window of Space Station Freedom and saw the stars. She had never thought she would end up here, floating above Earth. Back in Nebraska, people knew her as the woman who could fix anything. Cars, tractors, computers. If it was broken, Olivia found a way to make it work again. NASA had noticed her skills. 3 years ago, they came to her small repair shop with an offer. They needed people who could solve problems in space, people who understood machines in their bones. Olivia said yes without thinking twice. Now she worked on the station's communication systems. Today was supposed to be a normal day, fixing a broken antenna. Then the alarm went off. "Unknown object approaching," said the station's computer. "Large vessel, not Earth origin." Olivia and the 5 other crew members gathered at the main window. What they saw changed everything they knew about the universe. A ship, 3 times bigger than their station, glided toward them. It was smooth and silver, with blue lights running along its sides. It moved like nothing built by human hands, silent and graceful. Captain Harris called Mission Control. "We have visual contact with what appears to be an alien vessel. Please advise." The reply came back broken and full of static. "Stand by." Attempting. Diplomatic. Then the communication died completely. The alien ship came closer. Too close. Olivia checked the station's sensors and saw the problem immediately. "Their approach vector is wrong," she said. "They're going to hit us in about 2 minutes." Captain Harris tried the emergency thrusters, but they weren't strong enough to move the station in time. The alien ship showed no signs of changing course. "Maybe they don't realize we can't move out of the way," Olivia said. She looked at the docking controls. "I have an idea." Without waiting for permission, she ran to the emergency airlock controls. If the alien ship was going to hit them anyway, maybe she could turn a crash into a docking. Olivia typed quickly, overriding safety protocols. She extended the emergency docking ring, a flexible tube designed to connect with other Earth vessels in emergencies. "What are you doing, Mason?" Captain Harris asked. "Trying to save us all," she replied, not looking up from her work. The alien ship was seconds away from collision when Olivia finished. The docking ring extended toward the smooth hull of the alien vessel, searching for a connection point. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then, with a loud clang that echoed through the station, the ring found purchase. The computer showed a solid lock. Both the station and the alien ship shuddered, then stabilized. What should have been a deadly crash had turned into the first docking between human and alien vessels. "How did you know that would work?" asked Lieutenant Patel, her voice shaking. "I didn't," Olivia admitted. "But their ship has to have some way to connect with other ships, and our docking ring is designed to find compatible systems." An hour later, the airlock opened. The station crew stood nervously as 3 tall figures entered. They had blue-gray skin, 4 arms, and large eyes that blinked sideways. They wore what looked like armor made of flowing metal. The tallest alien stepped forward. A device on its chest glowed, and it spoke in perfect English. "I am Commander Zex Talon of the Cyrenai Exploration Fleet. Your quick action prevented damage to our vessel. Our scanners indicate it was the work of this one." The alien pointed at Olivia. Captain Harris nodded. "Yes, Engineer Mason created the emergency docking procedure." Commander Zex Talon studied Olivia with those strange blinking eyes. "Impressive. For a primitive species. Perhaps there is more to learn from your kind than our initial scan suggested." The commander turned to Captain Harris. "We propose a cultural exchange. This engineer will join our crew to teach us about human ingenuity, and we will share appropriate technology with your people." "That's not my decision to make," Captain Harris said. But 2 days later, after endless video meetings with world leaders and NASA officials, the decision was made. Humanity needed to learn about these aliens, and Olivia was their best chance. As she packed her few belongings, Olivia wondered what she had gotten herself into. She was just a mechanic from Nebraska. Now she would be the first human to travel beyond the solar system on an alien ship. Little did she know that the aliens' mockery of primitive humans would soon turn to respect, and eventually to something like fear. Olivia stood in her new room on the alien ship Vanquisher. It was small, with strange curves and lights that changed color. The bed was too big and shaped wrong for a human body. The air smelled like metal and something sweet she couldn't name. "Your living space, human," said her guide, an alien named Kirivex. "Commander Zex Talon placed you on the lowest deck, near the maintenance areas." "Thank you," Olivia said, though she wasn't sure if she should be thankful. The room was cold, and the gravity felt wrong, slightly stronger than Earth's. Kirivex pointed to a flat panel on the wall. "This will provide nutrients suitable for your biology. Do not touch anything else without permission." The alien paused, then added, "Your species uses primitive tools. Try not to damage our technology with your experiments." After Kirivex left, Olivia sat on the edge of the strange bed. She was alone on an alien ship, the first human to travel beyond the solar system. Earth was already just a small dot in the darkness behind them. The next morning, two aliens took Olivia to a large room filled with screens and control panels. Commander Zex Talon waited there, with several other Sirene. "The human will observe basic ship functions today," the commander said. "Keep it away from sensitive systems." Olivia noticed they called her it instead of she. To them, she wasn't a person, just a specimen from a primitive planet. For hours, Olivia watched the aliens work. They spoke in their own language, a series of clicks and humming sounds. When they needed to speak to her, they used translation devices. She listened carefully, trying to match their sounds with the English words. One alien, working at a control panel, made a mistake. Olivia saw it immediately. He was adjusting the wrong settings for the air system. Without thinking, she stepped forward. "That's not right," she said. "You're changing the oxygen mix for the whole deck." The alien turned all four arms in a gesture of surprise. "The primitive thinks it understands our systems." He spoke to the others, and they all made a sound that must have been laughter. Commander Zex Talon approached. "Explain your concern, human." Olivia pointed to the screen. "These numbers show oxygen levels. That control changes them. He's lowering the oxygen too much." The commander checked the readings, then spoke sharply to the other alien. The alien quickly fixed the settings. "A lucky guess," Commander Zex Talon said to Olivia. "Our systems are far beyond your understanding." But later that day, Olivia was assigned to basic maintenance duties. It wasn't much, but it was better than just watching. Over the next few weeks, Olivia learned more about the ship. At night, she studied the ship's educational database, secretly learning the Sirene language. During the day, she did simple jobs that the aliens thought were appropriate for her primitive skills. The aliens often spoke about her while she was in the room, not knowing she was starting to understand them. "Why does the commander keep this Earth creature on board?" one engineer asked another. "It barely understands basic physics." "Diplomatic reasons," the other replied. "And perhaps for amusement. Its attempts to use our technology are entertaining." Olivia kept quiet and continued learning. Her room was still uncomfortable, so she began making small changes. She adjusted the bed using tools she borrowed from the maintenance bay. She modified the food dispenser to make things that tasted more like Earth food. When the gravity bothered her, she built a small device that created a localized feel to make it feel more like home. Each night, when the ship was quieter, she sent encrypted messages back to Earth about everything she was learning. The aliens had given her a communication device, not realizing how quickly she would figure out how to bypass its limitations. One day, as Olivia worked on fixing a broken cleaning robot, Commander Zex Talon appeared beside her. "Your modifications to your quarters," the commander said. "They are unexpected." Olivia froze. "I'm sorry if I broke rules." "You did not break rules because we did not think such modifications were possible with your level of knowledge." The commander studied her with those sideways blinking eyes. "Perhaps we have underestimated you, Olivia Mason." It was the first time any of the aliens had used her name. 3 months passed on the Vanquisher. Olivia now knew her way around the lower decks. The aliens still thought of her as primitive, but they let her do more work. She fixed small problems with the cleaning systems and helped maintain the food dispensers. Every day, she learned more about how the ship worked. One morning, alarms rang throughout the ship. Olivia felt the engines change speed. Through a viewing window, she saw something massive floating in space. It was another ship, but it looked ancient and damaged. Parts of its hull were broken open, showing dark spaces inside. Kirivex hurried past her in the corridor. "What's happening?" Olivia asked. "We found a derelict vessel," Kirivex answered, sounding excited. "Very old. Not Serene, and not from any known civilization." For the next 2 days, all the aliens talked about was the mystery ship. Olivia listened as they discussed their plans. The Serene would send a team to explore the derelict and learn its secrets. The technology team can't access its control systems, one engineer told another in the mess hall. The ship has no power, and its computer design is unlike anything we've seen. Olivia thought about this as she worked on repairing a broken door mechanism. The aliens relied heavily on their advanced technology. When something was truly different, they struggled to adapt. Later that day, Commander Zex Talon called all crew members to the main viewing room. The commander showed images from inside the derelict ship. "Our exploration team found these control panels," Zex Talon explained, pointing to strange, circular devices with physical buttons and dials. "But we cannot determine how to activate them." Olivia stared at the images. Something looked familiar about those controls. They reminded her of old mechanical systems from Earth, analog technology from before computers became advanced. She raised her hand slowly. "The human wishes to speak," Commander Zex Talon said, sounding surprised. "Those controls," Olivia said. "They look like mechanical systems we used on Earth before we had good computers. They might work without power." Several aliens made the sound that Olivia now knew was laughter. "The primitive thinks it understands technology older than its entire civilization," one officer said. Commander Zex Talon silenced the laughter with a gesture. "Explain your theory, Olivia Mason." Olivia pointed to the circular dials. "These might be pressure gauges, and these could be manual switches that physically connect circuits. On Earth, we used systems like this for submarines and early spacecraft. They work without computers." The commander was quiet for a long moment. "Interesting. Perhaps primitive technology is exactly what we need to understand primitive technology." The way the commander said it wasn't exactly respectful, but it wasn't mockery either. The next day, Olivia found herself on the exploration team. She wore a spacesuit designed for Serene, modified to fit her human body. It felt awkward but kept her alive as they entered the ancient ship. Inside, the air was thin but breathable. The exploration team led her to the control room they had found. The circular panels covered the walls. Some had broken glass faces, but many were intact. "We can find no way to activate these systems," the team leader said. "Show us your primitive knowledge, human." Olivia examined the panels carefully. She recognized the design now. They were like the mechanical controls from old nuclear submarines. She found what looked like a main power switch, a large lever with symbols that might mean on and off. "I think we need to start with this," she said, pointing to the lever. "We tried moving it. It does nothing," the team leader said. Olivia looked closer and noticed something. "It has a safety lock." She pointed to a small button near the base of the lever. On Earth, important controls have safeties to prevent accidents. She pressed the button and pulled the lever at the same time. With a deep mechanical groan, the lever moved. Lights flickered across the control panels. The ship was waking up. The aliens stepped back in surprise. Even through their space helmets, Olivia could see their shock. "How did you know?" the team leader asked. Olivia smiled. "Sometimes, the old ways are more reliable." Back on the Vanquisher, Commander Zex Talon called Olivia to the command deck, a place no human had been allowed before. "Your knowledge of primitive technology has proven valuable," the commander said. "I am appointing you technical consultant for the study of the derelict vessel." It wasn't exactly a promotion, but Olivia knew what it meant. The aliens were starting to see that being primitive wasn't the same as being stupid. "Thank you, Commander," she said. "I'm happy to help." After activating the ancient ship, Olivia's life on the Vanquisher changed. The aliens still viewed her as primitive, but now they saw value in that primitiveness. She helped study the artifacts they took from the derelict vessel, explaining how mechanical systems worked without computers. Commander Zex Talon even gave her a small team of junior officers to assist in her work. Kirivex, once her reluctant guide, now asked questions about Earth technology with real interest. "Your people used gears and springs for so long," Kirivex said one day. "Why didn't you develop proper energy fields sooner?" "Sometimes you need to understand the basics before you can build something advanced," Olivia explained. "That's why I can fix your ship systems, even though I don't fully understand them. I know the principles behind how things work." The Vanquisher was now traveling toward a beautiful purple and blue cloud in space, a nebula full of rare gases and minerals. The Sci-Fi planned to collect these resources for their empire. As they approached the nebula, the ship's long-range sensors detected something unexpected. "Commander, we have detected another vessel at the edge of the nebula," reported the sensor officer. "It's not Serene." Commander Zex Talon studied the readings. Drav Khan ship signature. Battle stations. Olivia had heard about the Drav Khan from the crew, another alien species that often fought with the Sci-Fi over territory and resources. As alarms sounded through the ship, she stayed at her new workstation, unsure what to do. "The Drav Khan are hailing us," said the communications officer. On the main screen, a new alien appeared. It had red scales and sharp teeth. It spoke in a harsh language that Olivia's translator converted to English. "Sci-Fi vessel. This nebula is claimed by the Drav Khan Empire. Leave immediately or be destroyed." Commander Zex Talon stood tall. "This region of space is unclaimed. We have as much right to the resources as you do." The Drav Khan bared its teeth. "Then we will settle this the old way." The screen went dark. "Weapons ready," ordered Commander Zex Talon. "Shields at maximum." The Vanquisher shook as the Drav Khan ship fired its weapons. The lights flickered. "Shields holding at 80%, reported an officer. Commander Zex Talon ordered return fire. The battle continued for several minutes, both ships circling and firing at each other. Then something changed. The Drav Khan ship released a small object that floated toward the Vanquisher. "Unknown device approaching," said the sensor officer. "It's..." A flash of light filled the screens. The entire ship went dark. All the control panels turned off. Even the emergency lights failed. "What happened?" Commander Zex Talon demanded. "Electromagnetic pulse weapon." Someone answered in the darkness. "All systems are offline." Slowly, dim emergency lights came on. The artificial gravity weakened. Olivia felt lighter, as if she were floating slightly. "Main computer is not responding," reported the chief engineer. "Engines are offline. Life support is running on emergency power only." Another officer's voice was filled with fear. "Commander, we're drifting toward the gravitational anomaly at the edge of the nebula. Without engines, we'll be pulled in within 30 minutes." In the dim light, Olivia could see the panic on the aliens' faces. Their ship was the most advanced in the galaxy, but without power, all that technology was useless. She remembered something from her training on Earth, how the first astronauts had backup systems for everything, because computers weren't reliable yet. "Does this ship have any manual backup systems?" she asked. Commander Zex Talon turned to her. "Manual backups are primitive. We have redundant computer systems, which are all affected by the electromagnetic pulse," Olivia pointed out. "On Earth, we keep some old-fashioned controls exactly for this kind of emergency." The commander was quiet for a moment. There are manual override controls in engineering, but they haven't been used in generations. No one knows how to operate them. Kirivex stepped forward. I can take Olivia to engineering. Maybe her primitive knowledge will help. Commander Zextelon looked at the main screen, which showed the approaching gravitational anomaly, a swirling distortion in space that would tear the ship apart. Go, the commander ordered. We have nothing to lose. As Olivia and Kirivex hurried through the darkened corridors, she felt the fate of everyone on board resting on her shoulders. The aliens who had mocked her primitive ways now needed those same primitive skills to save them all. Olivia and Kirivex ran through the dark hallways of the Vanquisher. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the walls. The ship tilted slightly as it drifted toward the gravitational anomaly. Here, said Kirivex, stopping at a sealed door. This is engineering. The door didn't open automatically like usual. With no power, it was stuck shut. How do we get in? Olivia asked. Kirivex pointed to a small panel next to the door. There's a manual release, but I've never used it. Olivia examined the panel and found a hidden lever. She pulled it hard, and the door slid open just enough for them to squeeze through. Inside engineering, several Sireni engineers worked frantically by the light of emergency lamps. Chief Engineer Voxdar looked up as they entered. Why is the human here? He demanded. Commander's orders, Kirivex replied. We need to access the manual backup systems. Voxdar's eyes widened. Those systems haven't been used in over 100 years. Show me, Olivia said firmly. The chief engineer hesitated, then led them to the back of the room. He pulled away a wall panel, revealing a set of levers, wheels, and analog gauges. These connect directly to the engine cooling systems, thruster controls, and life support, Voxdar explained. But without the computer to regulate them, using these could cause more damage. Olivia studied the controls. They reminded her of the mechanical systems in old submarines and factories back on Earth. I understand how these work, she said. They're like systems we used on Earth before advanced computers. 20 minutes until we reach the point of no return, came Commander Zextalon's voice over a handheld communicator. Olivia took a deep breath. I need help. Kirivex, turn that wheel slowly when I tell you. Voxdar, those gauges show pressure. We need to keep the needle in the green area. The aliens looked at each other, then nodded. For the next 10 minutes, Olivia directed them like a conductor leading an orchestra. They turned wheels, pulled levers, and watched gauges. Slowly, the backup systems came to life. Life support stabilizing, reported Voxdar, sounding surprised. Now for the emergency thrusters, Olivia said. They won't give us full power, but they might be enough to stop our drift. She found the manual ignition controls and carefully adjusted them. A deep rumble ran through the ship as the emergency thrusters fired. Bridge to engineering. Commander Zextalon's voice came over the communicator. Our drift is slowing, but not enough. We need more power. The backup systems weren't designed for this kind of emergency, Voxdar said. We can't get any more power from them. Olivia stared at the controls, thinking hard. Then she remembered something from her NASA training. We can't push harder, she said, but we can be smarter about how we use what we have. She turned to a different set of controls. These adjust the direction of the thrusters, right? Voxdar nodded. Instead of trying to move away from the anomaly directly, we can use it, Olivia explained. If we angle the thrusters just right, we can use the gravity of the anomaly to slingshot around it. That's too risky, protested Voxdar. Without the main computer to calculate the trajectory. I can do it, Olivia interrupted. I've seen this done in space missions back home. She grabbed the communicator. Commander, I need control of the ship. There was a long pause. Explain, said Commander Zextalon. Olivia quickly outlined her plan. Another pause followed. The ship's emergency AI has been monitoring your work in engineering, the commander finally said. It confirms your theory has a 63% chance of success. All other options have less than 30%. I need direct access to the bridge controls, Olivia insisted. Granted, the commander replied. The emergency AI is transferring command protocols to your station. This has never happened before, Olivia Mason. Don't make me regret it. A control panel in engineering lit up. The ship's emergency AI, operating on minimal power, had recognized Olivia's commands as the best chance for survival. Everyone hold on, Olivia said as she took control of the manual navigation system. This is going to be a rough ride. As the Vanquisher approached the swirling gravity well, Olivia carefully timed the thruster bursts. The ship shuddered violently. Warning alarms sounded throughout the vessel. For one terrifying moment, it seemed like they would be pulled into the anomaly. Then, like a stone in a slingshot, the ship curved around the gravitational field and shot away in a new direction. On the bridge, the Sirenai crew watched in amazement as their ship escaped certain destruction. Guided by the hands of a human they had once called primitive, the Vanquisher limped through space, running on the manual systems that Olivia had activated. The electromagnetic pulse had damaged many of the ship's advanced computers. It would take weeks to repair everything. 2 days after escaping the gravitational anomaly, Olivia stood on the bridge for the first time as an invited guest. Commander Zex Talon had called her there to discuss the ship's condition. Our engineers report that your manual control setup saved more than just our lives, the commander said. It prevented major damage to our engine core. Without your quick thinking, we would have lost the ship entirely. Olivia nodded. On Earth, we have a saying. Keep it simple, stupid. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. A strange saying, but wise, the commander admitted. The ship's AI has analyzed your actions during the crisis. It believes your primitive perspective provided a solution that our advanced training would never have considered. This was the closest thing to a compliment Olivia had received from the commander. We are setting course for Outpost Zeta 9 for repairs, Zex Talon continued. I have sent a report to the Sirenai Admiralty about your actions. A week later, as the Vanquisher approached the outpost, Kirivex brought news to Olivia's quarters. You've become famous among our fleet, Kirivex said excitedly. The story of how a human saved a Sirenai warship has spread to every captain. Olivia looked up from the engine diagram she was studying. Famous? That's hard to believe. Several captains have requested human engineers for their own ships, Kirivex continued. They believe your kind might have unique perspectives that could be valuable. Olivia couldn't help but smile. So we're not just primitive anymore. Oh, you're still primitive, Kirivex said, but without the mockery that would have been there months ago. But sometimes primitive is exactly what's needed. When they reached Outpost Zeta 9, Olivia was surprised to see a familiar shape docked there, an Earth shuttle. As she walked with Commander Zex Talon through the airlock into the outpost, she saw 2 humans waiting for them. Olivia called a man with a big smile. It was Frank Nelson, one of her colleagues from NASA. Standing next to him was Carol Richards, a mechanical engineer Olivia had trained with. What are you doing here? Olivia asked as they hugged. We're part of the new exchange program, Carol explained. After what you did on the Vanquisher, the Sirenai requested more human engineers. Frank is joining the science vessel Horizon, and I'm assigned to the trade ship Prosperity. Commander Zex Talon stepped forward. The Admiralty was impressed by your performance, Olivia Mason. They believe there may be value in having more humans with your perspective serving on our ships. A tall Sirenai in an elaborate uniform approached them. The commander stood straighter. Admiral Lex Vorn, Zex Talon said with respect. The admiral looked at Olivia with intense eyes. So this is the human who commanded a Sirenai vessel. Impressive. I just did what needed to be done, Olivia said. That is precisely why I am here, the admiral replied. Commander Zex Talon has requested something unprecedented. He wants you as his permanent first officer. Olivia stared in shock. First officer? But I'm not even Sirenai. I don't have formal training for your ships. You have something more valuable, Commander Zex Telon said, "You think differently. You see solutions we miss because of our advanced training. The crisis proved that." Admiral Lex Vorn nodded. "The Admiralty has approved this request as a diplomatic gesture. It will strengthen our new alliance with Earth." "What the Admiral isn't saying," Zex Talon added, "is that many believe you will fail. They think humans are still too primitive for such responsibility." Olivia thought about everything she had experienced on the Vanquisher. The mockery, the challenges, and finally, the moment when her primitive knowledge saved everyone. "Then I'll just have to prove them wrong," she said. That evening, in her new, larger quarters, Olivia recorded a message to send back to Earth. She told them about her promotion and what it meant for human-Sci-Fi relations. As she finished the recording, she looked at the uniform laid out on her bed, a modified Sci-Fi officer's uniform, adjusted for her human body. The first officer insignia gleamed on the collar. From primitive human to first officer in less than a year. Olivia smiled. This was just the beginning. 1 year had passed since Olivia first stepped aboard the Vanquisher. The ship looked different now. During repairs, Olivia had suggested changes to combine Sci-Fi technology with human engineering principles. The result was a vessel unlike any other in the galaxy. Today, the Vanquisher was returning to Earth for the first time since Olivia's journey began. As first officer, she stood on the bridge beside Commander Zex Telon, watching the blue planet grow larger on the main screen. "It looks so small from here," she said. "I almost forgot how beautiful it is." "Your world is young," Commander Zex Telon replied, "but it has produced remarkable people." The Vanquisher was now the flagship of the new Human-Sci-Fi Alliance. 10 more humans served aboard, working alongside the alien crew. Engineers from both species had learned from each other, creating systems that were both advanced and reliable. "We're receiving a transmission from Earth," announced the communications officer. On the screen appeared the face of NASA Director Alan Peters. "Welcome home, Vanquisher," he said with a broad smile. "And congratulations on completing your mission, First Officer Mason." "Thank you, Director," Olivia replied. "It's good to see Earth again." "The delegation is ready to come aboard once you're in orbit," the Director continued. "This meeting will mark a new chapter in our relationship with the Sci-Fi." As the Vanquisher settled into orbit, Olivia thought about how much had changed. She remembered her first days on the ship, when the aliens had called her primitive and laughed at her questions. Now those same aliens looked to her for guidance and respected her opinions. The Earth delegation arrived a few hours later. Scientists, engineers, and government officials came aboard to tour the ship and discuss future projects. Olivia led them through the vessel, showing them the changes she had helped implement. This control system combines Sci-Fi energy field technology with manual backups designed by our engineering team, she explained, pointing to a workstation. "If the main computer fails, we can still control essential systems." One of the NASA engineers nodded appreciatively. The best of both worlds. Later, during a formal dinner in the ship's newly built conference room, Commander Zex Talon called for everyone's attention. "Today marks 1 year since First Officer Mason joined our crew," the commander said. "In that time, she has taught us that primitive is merely a word used by those too proud to learn new ways." The commander raised a glass filled with a blue liquid. "The Sci-Fi Admiralty has made a decision that I am proud to announce. Based on the success of the Vanquisher's modified systems, they have commissioned a new class of ships. Vessels designed from the beginning to incorporate both Sci-Fi and human technology." Murmurs of excitement spread through the room. "The first ship of this class will be called the Cooperation," Zex Telon continued. "And it will have something no Sci-Fi vessel has ever had. 2 captains, 1 Sci-Fi, and 1 human, commanding together." The commander turned to face Olivia. "First Officer Mason, you have been selected as the human captain of the Cooperation. I can think of no one better qualified." Olivia stood in shock as everyone in the room applauded. From repair shop owner in Nebraska to captain of an interstellar vessel in just over a year. I don't know what to say, she admitted. Say yes, Kirivex called from across the room. Someone needs to keep the Sireni from becoming too dependent on their fancy computers. Everyone laughed, including the Sireni officers who once would have been offended by such a comment. I accept, Olivia said finally, and I promise to bring the best of humanity to this new role. After the dinner, Olivia stood alone by a viewing window, looking down at Earth. Commander Zex Talon joined her. When I first met you, I thought humans were primitive, the commander said. Now I understand that different does not mean inferior. And I've learned that advanced technology isn't always the answer, Olivia replied. Sometimes you need to step back and see the bigger picture. Together, our species will go further than either could alone, Zex Talon said. The stars await us, Captain Mason. Olivia smiled at her new title. The primitive human from Earth was now captain of the most advanced ship in the galaxy. The aliens who once mocked her now stood ready to follow her commands. It wasn't just her story anymore. It was the beginning of a new chapter for both species.